everyone, how are you doing? So I'm really sorry again for not posting for a really long time. New Year's resolution is to post at least once a fortnight. That is going to be the goal. As you know, I did 3 shows this term, and term of that is like 10 weeks, so I've just been non-stop running about doing everything like non-stop. I'm like Alexander Hamilton, I'm writing like I'm running out of time. Oh my god, the feels. I wanted to start a discussion with you guys because this is sort of a thing that's been playing on my mind relatively recently. So if you guys don't know, I think next year there's going to be an all-female production of Posh by Laura Wade. Which has sparked up a little bit of controversy with some people. If you don't know the play Posh, Posh is about a group of white privileged men who are sort of like Oxbridge kind of lot, and it's based on the Bullington Club, which is the sort of club where David Cameron, Boris Johnson all went to. It's for like really privileged, really like upper middle class, upper class kind of people, where they go and just do really random and illegal things. Basically, I don't really know much about it, but Posh is about all these privileged men and them abusing that privilege and thinking they can get away with crap when really they kind of can't. But they've decided to make the whole cast in this production female, and whilst it's good that there is a representation of women, is it really necessary? And I'm thinking about like the potential like metaphors you could possibly make, or the potential meanings you could have by replacing women in the men's roles. But the problem is that if you don't know Posh and you don't really know that originally it's meant to be played by men, and you go and watch and you see these women doing all this crazy stuff, you won't really understand its purpose, and you won't really understand, oh, it's horrible that these women are doing it, but men do it all the time. Oh my god, this is crap. You won't really get that meaning unless you make it extremely explicit at the beginning. But I guess if they buy the programme or they read the reviews, you'll most likely know that the entire cast is played by women rather than it usually being men. But in my eyes, I don't necessarily see the point of casting women in men's roles for the sake of casting women in roles for the sake of representation. That's kind of not really my kind of vibe. Though I am really anal about representation in theatre and film and all that stuff. I don't believe in forced representation. I don't believe in positive discrimination. So I wanted to make a video about my problem with forced gender-blind casting. Gender-blind casting, and a good example of that is when I did King Lear with the York Shakespeare Project. That was completely gender-blind casting. Originally the fool is played by a man, but when I auditioned for it, there was a guy who eventually was initially cast as Lear. He was also auditioning for the fool as well, because I saw him bring a ukulele with him. I was like, mate, don't bring my idea. I was very tempted. And also Gloucester was played by a woman, Oswald was played by a woman. Interesting fact, none of the female roles in King Lear were played by men, which I think would have been a very interesting thing. Anyway, I think the problem with forced gender blind casting is that, well, firstly, people will kind of know about it, saying, let's what shall I use as an example? Fen by Carol Churchill. I studied Fen by Carol Churchill this term. Fen is about a group of women working in the Fens. It's all meant to be about how these women are so used to just being housewives, and anyone that sort of goes against that tide is extremely radical and completely against the social norms, but it's seen in a really negative light. But if I were to turn to someone and say, oh, I want to do an all-male production of Fen by Carol Churchill, it completely loses its purpose. If you do an all-male production of Fen by Carol Churchill, you're not really getting the grasp of the fact that women have been sort of coaxed and sort of brainwashed into thinking that being a housewife is the norm, that's all you're going to achieve, and you don't have that ambition to strive for any further. And I guess it is the same for men, but it's for men, they have sort of higher expectations to own the farm, do the work, be the man. I mean, that's also quite shitty. If you're doing an all-male production of that, then it completely loses its purpose in regards to women's standards and men's standards, rather than just doing an all-male production having men's standards. Also, another thing I wanted to mention, I've not really seen a lot of like non-binary people or transgender people playing gender swapped roles, or like just gender neutral roles, which I think is a shame, because I think there's such a lack of representation for the LGBTQ+ community. Whilst there is sort of an evolving representation, I guess, in television, like Legend of Korra with Korra and Asami, and I don't watch Adventure Time, but there is a lesbian couple, I believe, in Adventure Time. There is that sort of representation for children at that stage, but in regards to adults going to the theatre, the only sort of example I can think of is Angels in America and Rent. That's all I can really think of. If you have any recommendations in terms of LGBTQ plus plays, please let me know in the comments, because I really would like to read a lot of new plays, because I've just been hiding in a hole for ages of new plays. Anyway, and I feel like, well, firstly, they're missing out on non-binary casting and just making things gender neutral. Just kind of the fact it still feels very heteronormative. Don't really know where I'm kind of going with this point, because I didn't really do enough research in this sort of area. But it's just something I kind of noticed, and I really would like to see more representation in that area. And also with Glenda Jackson playing Queen Leah, and also with the all-female Posh, it just comes across as them sort of trying it for the funsies and not really trying to see the purpose behind casting a female Queen Leah or having an all-female Bullington Club. It's sort of the equivalent of putting Shakespeare in the 60s just because the costumes look really cool. Yeah, we're pro-equality. Look, we're getting a Queen Lear. It's so cool. Oh, so what's the purpose? What's the purpose of having a Queen Lear? We don't know, but it's just really cool. It's a very fine line because, as you know on this channel, I'm a feminist through and through, and I'm all about representation. I'm all about equality for men and women and non-binary people. I want everyone to just love each other and be happy. But if you're putting different genders in roles that are not their gender for the sake of doing it, for the sake of representation, then I don't really think that's okay. I just would like new plays to just be accepting of anyone playing the roles. Obviously, if there's a specific purpose for a certain race or a certain gender or a certain sexuality, then obviously you have to cast accordingly. But I'd like to think that sometimes there are plays coming out where it's not entirely necessary. I feel like with a lot of gender-blind casting, it's very much going towards women, which is sort of good, because, you know, I'm a woman, it's quite nice, but it means that people are sort of not acknowledging the sort of roles that men are currently getting. A lot of, especially in Shakespeare, my knowledge is kind of in Shakespeare right now, a lot of Shakespearean roles, though there are very sort of complex male roles in Shakespeare, a lot of them are very sort of pro-masculinity, and those who aren't are like cowards. It reminded me of the production of Faustus with Kit Harington, and there was a review of it on What's on Stage. It was talking about how there was a really random shower scene in the show, which is definitely not in the original script, I must say. I know, because I did it. And apparently Kit Harington was just in his, like, underwear, really tight underwear, and that was basically it. And if it was a woman playing that role, everyone would have, like, flipped their knocks off, right? It's absolutely mind-boggling how no one made a huge fuss about how they were exploiting Kit Harington's very attractive body for the sake of selling tickets and just to appease the female gaze. And that's the problem with forcing all these women to play these male roles. Whilst it's really great for female representation, I'm all for that. You go live your life, you go do whatever role you want. We should all be equal, we should all love each other, but we should all respect each other, and we shouldn't just put one gender up for the sake of representation and then leave the other gender just there with sometimes very crappy circumstances. I think also right now the problem is, whilst we have very good representation in TV and film, there was a BBC article where it was like, there are stronger female heroes than ever. I can't remember the exact name of the article, but I'll link to that down in the description. But I think right now the main issue is behind the scenes. Hazel Hayes, aka Chewing Sand, does a video about women in film and displays a lot of statistics, and it's a fantastic video. I really recommend it. I'll link to that in the description down below as well. But I have a few statistics I'd like to tell you. Only 29% of directors in big theatres are women. That is according to The Guardian in 2014. In Michael Billington's book of, I think it was 101 Greatest Plays, I think only 6 of them were female writers. According to the figures compiled by Tonic, of the artistic directors working across the 179 theatre organisations in Arts Council England's national portfolio, 63% are male and 37% are female. Where are the non-binary people? I don't really know. And lastly, I don't know if this is Broadway or England because it was talking about the Tony Awards, so I'm not sure about this. Despite the fact that more than 67% of the theatre audience is women, only 42% of all directors are female and only 27% are playwrights. And these are all the statistics I have for you on my phone. But I think the problem is, I think the reason why women and men are not getting as many equal opportunities now, it's because of the fact that the industry is still mainly dominated by men. And whilst there is a rise in female writers like Lucy Kirkwood and Carol Churchill, there's all these great female writers. Whilst I don't want to force opportunities for women, there's a pattern forming that men are still sort of dominating the industry. And maybe it's because in education, I think education is so vital for any problem. If you get that education, that sense of habit early on in a child, in their brain, the more likely they're more open to discovering new opportunities. And I remember when I was in primary school, there were a lot of men that said they wanted to be footballers, and I remember one of them that said they wanted to be a film director. But I think if I learnt about all the different career opportunities, I think I would have been more encouraged to go the more directorial route from an early stage, and maybe things might have turned out differently. The more we encourage people to try out an array of roles rather than trying to compress young teenagers to go into only one section that they think best appeals to them. Why not push them out of their comfort zone and get them to experiment new things? If we want more women in the behind the scenes and we want more opportunities for women, it all comes down to education. Not forcing all these women to play originally male roles and sort of missing the point of what Posh by Laura Wade is about, but rather than creating these opportunities for women and creating a more even space for all genders, I think is the way to go. But anyway, I think that's all I really have to say on the matter. That's all I really had my notes from. Thank you very much for watching. I'm really interested in hearing your thoughts because I constantly want to learn and I want to read new plays. If you have any plays in terms of LGBTQ plus community kind of vibes, or with really strong female characters or male characters, please link them in the description below. I'm always looking for new plays to read, / maybe act, / maybe direct, who knows. Thank you very much for watching and I'll see you in, hopefully, next week's video. Okay, bye!